Today is Tuesday, July the 7th, 2026. The time is 2:20 p.m. And I titled this one, Jason Whitlock Hypocritically Capes for Marcellus Wiley, right? And if we are living under a rock, we see that Marcellus Wiley has found himself in a bit of trouble with domestic allegations from his wife, right? And this stems from over the 4th of July weekend. And as we know, Jason Whitlock, he is one of those I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, Negroes, and always talking about black male accountability, right? That how black men can't basically use the system of racism, white supremacy as an excuse for our hurdles and things of that nature. But what I found about, and let me read some things, and this comes from Yahoo Sports. It says NFL alum. Now, who is this? This is not me. This is Yahoo Sports reporting. NFL alum Marcellus Wiley allegedly threatened to kill his wife during a heated argument. Right? And let's get into the story and let's get into the article. It says details surrounding former NFL player Marcellus Wiley's 4th of July arrest have emerged, and they're quite startling. A report states that Marcellus, who previously played with teams like the Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys, allegedly got into a got physical with his wife, former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Anne-Marie Wiley. Marcellus, 51, and I want to point out age 51, right? 51 has been in the news before. Earlier this year, the Columbia alum was accused of sexually assaulting women when he worked at ESPN in the early 2000s. Before that, 3 other women accused him of assaulting them between 95 and 99. All right? According to TMZ, Marcellus allegedly got into a physical confrontation with his wife Anne-Marie over the holiday weekend while in Orlando, Florida. Thank you. Anne-Marie reportedly told the law enforcement that she wanted her husband removed from the hotel at the World Marriott because she was afraid that he would follow through with his alleged threats. Right? What was those threats? To delete her. Marcellus allegedly battered his wife in front of their 3 children inside the hotel room while they were there for a basketball tournament. Now, when it comes to Jason Whitlock, he says the contrary, that the child wasn't present but did hear them arguing. Right? Let's pin that, because Jason Whitlock is Mr. Accountability when it comes to black men in legal trouble. But somehow he has different opinion with this one. Elsewhere in the report, it states that Anne-Marie told the police that she planned on divorcing Marcellus due to his unreported history of violence toward her in the past. Marcellus denied the claims that he and his wife were involved in a physical altercation, stating that he was in the hotel room to take care of his children. Police also stated that Marcellus showed them a text message between the pair in which they exchanged cordial messages. Despite that, police still found probable cause for Marcellus's arrest, leading to him being charged with alleged domestic battery, according to a previous report from the blast. Now, let me go to another one. This is TMZ. Who is this reporting? This is TMZ. This is not me. NFL star Marcellus Wiley wife claims he R-worded her as she files for a restraining order. Now, he already has allegations, right? Does allegations mean guilty or conviction? No. But when you have multiple allegations, this is where a pattern is formed, right? Like before R. Kelly was arrested, he had multiple allegations, right? Multiple allegations, whether guilty or innocent, it paints a picture of a pattern, right? So it says, Real Housewives of, and this is a TMZ article, by the way. Real Housewives of Beverly Hills alum Anne-Marie Wiley has slapped her husband, Marcellus Wiley, with a divorce and request for a restraining order after his recent arrest for domestic violence. TMZ has learned. Who's learned it? TMZ, not me. Now let's get into the article. According to court docs obtained by TMZ, Anne-Marie is asking that the court order her estranged husband to stay 100 yards away from her and allow her to use their LA home exclusively. The move comes after Marcellus was arrested over the weekend after Anne-Marie claimed he got physical with her in a Florida hotel room. Marcellus denied the claims, but was arrested for domestic violence. Let's continue. In her declaration, Anne-Marie claimed that Marcellus had subjected her to a continuing and escalating pattern, there's that word again, pattern of physical violence, sexual abuse, verbal and emotional abuse, financial control, and intimidation, which abusers usually do. Alleged abuser. She continued, because of the trauma associated with many of these events, there are gaps in my memory, as I have blocked out so much of what Marcellus has done to me, unquote. She claimed Marcellus R-worded her in 2012 while he was intoxicated and tried to sleep with two of her friends the same year, right? Are we saying Marcellus is guilty of these things? No. What I'm saying is there's a pattern of a certain mentality. But we're going to get to Jason Whitlock in a minute. She said in 2014, he punched her in the face and gave her a black eye. She said she was 9 months pregnant in 2019 when he threw a bottle of Coca-Cola at her head. Anne-Marie claims he also struck her in the face with his shoes August of 2025. In January of 2026, she claims he dragged her out of bed, berating her, and hit her in the head. He then R-worded me, there's that allegation again, telling me that I was his property and that I had to do what he said. She said he R-worded her a second time the same day. Anne-Marie said he R-worded her another time 2 days later. She claims he borrowed $100K from her and hasn't paid her back, while also running up her credit card bills to $100K. She said she feared for her life and desperately needed a restraining order. Right? So these are just allegations, right? But one thing I want to point out with these two black males before I get into Jason Whitlock caping and saying, I'm not caping for his behavior, but, and then they continue to go on and do what they do, right? I remember when John Morant got into his bit of trouble. And Marcellus Wiley was one of the ones that was constantly reporting on Ja's behavior. Even when John Morant sent out an apology, it was Marcellus Wiley that said he didn't feel that John Morant's apology was sincere. See, here's the thing: when you spend most of the time trying to gotcha your own people, not holding them accountable because they're doing something they shouldn't do, then yes, hold that line. Hold that line of accountability, right? But it's always those ones that are the loudest ones and pointing those fingers that you have to look into their closet just a little bit more and see about those skeletons, right? But Marcellus and Jason Whitlock are good friends, so I was quite naturally curious. Well, what would good old Christian Jason Whitlock, what would good old Christian Jason Whitlock have to say about this, right? And some of the things that I wrote down from him that, first thing that he wanted to say was that the world is rigged against men. And I said, wow. Right? As he's saying, I'm not caping. And as he said, according to his information, that the police, their daughter said she wasn't present, but she heard mommy and daddy arguing, being Marcellus and his wife. So he's trying to seem like he's not caping, but his angle is minimizing Marcellus Wiley's pattern of behavior. Now this goes back into years. So no, we cannot put that guilty jacket on him because he's never been convicted. But when you have a certain pattern, I think we have to pay attention to your pattern, right? Because why did John Morant get into trouble? Because he repeated the same things, right? He was never charged with anything, but there was a pattern, a continual pattern that John Morant continued, right? And the fact that this is what got me with Jason Whitlock, because if he would hear a black man like me say, the system is rigged against black men, he would tell me I'm making excuses. I'm sure listening to enough of his mindset, he would say that how I have to be the one to control my behavior and how I have to dictate what happens. But all of these allegations against Marcellus Wiley isn't just being made up. Can women make things up on you? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're not going to pretend that these things doesn't happen. But when you have one allegation and another one, and then when your wife, somebody has that spent time riding for you, comes out and says, this is your behavior. See, this is where you have to pause as a friend when speaking on your friend's in-home issues, because you see that person as a friend when you're around them. You don't see what their mate sees. You don't know what that person is like behind closed doors, Jason. Right? But what also got me is when hearing him talk about Alyssa Thomas, who, now, to be fair to Jason Whitlock, he did try to lessen the aggression toward Alyssa Thomas and her foul on Caitlin Clark, right? He did try to lessen and say that, it's much ado about nothing. It's a basketball foul. Like I said, this channel is about fair. It's not about trying to make anybody look a certain way. We just tell the truth over here, right? And it's not about trying to make somebody look a certain way. So he did try to be objective and fair toward Alyssa Thomas when it came to that, right? But I noticed also with Jason how he labeled her. See, labels stick. He labeled Alyssa Thomas a thug. Yeah. He called her a thug and then went into insulting her physical and said she was built like a linebacker, right? But you want to play this kind of game of, the system, women are against men, and the system is rigged against men. And if you're a certain thinker and you're not a right winger and you lean to the left, come on, stop making excuses, Jason. See, this is the problem with Christianity right here. This is the problem with Christians because they're situational in their views. Any other time when it's a black male in trouble, you are one of the ones that nail them, Jason. You, it depends on who it is. Old Shay, Shannon Sharp, you guys nail them to the cross. And we know Stephen A. Smith is going to get his in because he's the head one. So don't try to minimize these allegations. It seems like your friend has a bit of a temper problem, has a bit of an aggression problem, right? But it's mighty funny that I heard Jason Whitlock and he's speaking as a friend and how much of a good friend old Marcellus was, but his wife can't make up all of this. So you're telling me that they just had this total happy relationship, right? Walk with me, talk with me. They just had this total happy relationship. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's this great husband to his wife and Marcellus Wiley. This is what you're saying, Jason? And then all of a sudden, she just flips and just calls the police because he simply pointed his finger. And we from a thing where we keep saying, keep your hands to yourself. Unwanted touching is unwanted touching. So if the children, let's just give Jason Whitlock's argument and claim that the police said the children weren't present. Obviously trying to point out that the wife is lying. Let's just walk out on a limb and give that some credit. The child also said they heard them arguing. Right? Don't gloss over that, Jason, because that's your homie. Because see, we also do a disservice when we do this whole bro code, bros before 304s or bros before hoes. We also do a disservice when we minimize men abuse or male abuse for the system being against us. Right? That's another topic for another day. But when somebody is a repeat offender, right? So you're telling me John Morant image with a blicky warrants more of an attack and more of a demonization of Jason Whitlock? And then what was funny that he went into playing like I don't want to say word association, but he kind of tried to predict the mug shot. And Marcellus has like this little smug grin on his face. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm not directly quoting Jason on this. But he says basically that, if they capture him and he has his head down, that projects him in a certain light. And if he's looking too happy, that projects him in a certain light. I'm paraphrasing him. But, what this symbolizes is like, wow, this is how they got. This is how it ends. And if I want to say if I wanted to psychoanalyze that mugshot and that smug grin, if I wanted to look at it from a man that's mentally healthy and doesn't abuse women, that's an untouchable smug. Yeah, you think you got. That's how that comes across to me, Jason Whitlock. Right? So we can't always run to this whole thing of like, oh, they're against men. Oh, every male that get caught up in some type of shit, they always say the same thing. Not guilty. Not guilty. I didn't do this. Diddy on camera beating the hell out of Cassie. And you still got people saying, well, what you gonna believe? Your lying eyes or something else? We see the video. When those folks convicted R. Kelly, they were rolling in carts of tapes. What do you think are on those tapes? How many underage girls should it be before there's a problem? Should only be one before there's a problem. But see, the BS that we do, and this is this westernized thinking. Because to be westernized or Americanized, you have to be indoctrinated with a backwards way of thinking, of a desensitized way of thinking, right? So what pisses me off with my people, when it's us against these allegations and we see that it's a repeat offender, though they haven't been charged with anything. Sidebar, whenever they try to blame and cast that on Michael Jackson, I listen to how a person responds to what's being alleged against them. Same thing with Tupac, right? So when they asked Michael Jackson, and he said, I would never harm a child, I would rather slit my wrist than hurt a child. When Tupac was I think it was Ed Gordon, don't quote me on that, but I think it was Ed Gordon, if my memory serves me correct. I'm not 100% sure. But he said, look into my eyes, you can tell I'm not guilty. He says, listen at the songs that I have made. And then also, I forget, it could have been Ed Gordon again that interviewed R. Kelly, and they said, do you like young girls? And he said, when you say young, how young? Sometimes things are a direct indicator. But we like to play this BS game of, what about the parents? Well, you know, the parents, and I'm not throwing that out there. Some parents would not offer their children up for financial gain. We see it all the time. But what we have to come down to is, who is responsible for a male's penis? I don't like young girls because I'm not attracted to young girls. I like aunties, somewhat grandmamas. I like women that are seasoned because they have a seasoned mindset. This is what makes Trick Daddy sound so ignorant whenever he talks. This is what makes Lil Boosie so ignorant whenever he talks. Right? So all of these ones that love to say black people don't take account, yes, no, it's accountability over here. You don't get a pass for your degeneracy. To watch how they attacked India Ari, who simply spoke the truth. That song is a degenerate song that destroys the conscious state of the people. No, that is not the only song. Yes, there are a plethora of songs. But that shows a bigger problem. It shows what that word is, a pattern of degeneracy. But when we sit and we do what Jason Whitlock does, minimize abuse, or tries to point that there's a agenda against him, you're helping to keep abuse alive, Jason. But that's the type of person you are. See, you only suck up to white people because you think it's going to keep you safe. And they don't care for you, Jason. No matter how much you try to drape yourself in that American flag, that is not yours. You are a disgrace. Marcellus Wiley, if you are guilty of these things, you are a disgrace, sir. But I told you, it's always these super. I don't participate in these type of games. I'm a well-to-do Negro because you lack compassion. So in order for you to make it, Stephen A., you must constantly blast your people. How is it that Jalen Brown is being looked at as if he's done something wrong by simply just being a smart black man? That's what he did wrong. Let me read some of these comments. See, no matter what you do, stupid is going to follow. Let's see what Dusty says. Recently, there was a rapper that rapped about hitting on a person, and folks are so deprived and happy that trans people are acting like. I told you my line, Dusty. I don't advocate for LGBT to be pushed onto children and pushed. I'm gonna always hold the line, but I don't advocate ever for them to be treated violently or have violence pushed against them. Right? And that is disgusting because in that same token, that if we were to talk about anti-American things in music, it would be a problem. If we were to say a certain thing, there would be a knock on a lot of our doors. I know exactly what I could say behind this mic to bring attention towards me. But that's not a smart move. I'm a valuable piece. So that shows you to Dusty's point that what you speak about and what you rap about, it affects the thinking of the people. Right? Right? You don't have to be on two ends of the extreme. Because I don't advocate for gay people to be assaulted or hurt or brutalized, I also don't have to push it and be pro and like, yeah, children, because I know the effects of even that, how that takes on children's mind. You don't have to be too opposite of the extreme, right? But people have the right to live within that. And that is my problem with America. That is my problem with the Americanized way of thinking. Because to watch over the 4th of July weekend and somebody pointed out, a white person, I love to point out when y'all people pointed out, that how could these patriots, march through the street and say, reclaim America behind their mask and be given police escort and be given police protection, right? But how come when it's the people in the street protesting against whatever thing that they don't feel is correct, the police are being used in the opposite? Riddle me that, Batman. Because it goes into the fabrics and the morals of this country, right? So they love to tell you what you're going to stand for. This is your right. And if we tell you that's not your right, that's not your right, right? I think we should stop pushing. Now, see, I can't go for that one, Dusty. Nope. I think we should stop pushing straightness on children. It hurts my no, absolutely not, Dusty. I will not sign off on that one. Because if we don't push off on straightness, that's also an end of that also a pattern, that's also a way of depopulation. If we demonize straight people, you're still demonizing somebody. You got here through straightness, Dusty. See, no matter what you feel like, now here's my thing. This is where I'm gonna push super back. I can feel like I'm the richest man in the world. And I can feel like I'm the tallest man in the world. And if I say I identify as a billionaire and I demand that you let me drive this car off the lot, they are gonna arrest my black ass, Dusty. No, you can't do reverse hate on straightness. Dusty, straightness isn't an issue though. It's how the confused see straightness. Straightness is never an issue. Straightness is only an issue to the people that are against it. I was never for drag queens reading to children because that sends an image to their minds. Just like I'm not for Nazis reading to children because it sends an image to their minds. Right? So if I demand these things and I demand that they let me drive this off and give me a $2 million loan, they are going to look at me crazy. And I say, I identify as a rich man. It's confusion, Dusty. How the confused see straightness. You said, I don't understand that one, Dusty. Who a pretty man princess is not equal to Nazi. It's a level of extreme, is what I'm pointing out. For you to think, for a person to think, for a person that's born male, and I always say them from their original sex, not out of disrespect, but you're not going to make me mentally ill with you, right? So it's two ends of the extreme, Dusty, what I'm saying. For a person that's clearly a man, they'll even still have their tallywhacker and their beard. And for them to say, I feel like a woman. I feel I should identify as a woman. It's a level of mental illness. It's like transracial. The one that was saying she feels like a black person. See, that's the pushback that they don't want you don't want to understand that this is a level of mental illness. It's gender dysphoria, right? But I don't have to get on it's a level of extreme, just like Nazism. Now, is it a level of brutality? Absolutely not. But it's a level of pushing an ideology on you by force. It's forcing a right. Okay, you say, I live in Chicago. It's closed. Of course, you're not going to think it's a mental illness, Dusty. I have a beard, no hormone replacements. Am I mentally ill? Do you okay? So let me ask you a question. You say I have a beard, no hormone replacements. Am I mentally ill? My body decided to grow a beard with no intervention. Do you identify your what do you identify yourself as, Dusty? Do you identify yourself as a male or a female, a man or a woman? What do you identify yourself as? See, there it is. You say I'm just intersex. Yes, it's a level of confusion. Because you're so see, here's the thing that we see a lot of this stuff, and I always tell y'all to check out the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. It's not me talking. You were born a male though, Dusty. You weren't born intersex, whatever that means. What exactly is that? What exactly is your definition of intersex, Dusty? Right? Yes, it's a form of it's mental illness if you see yourself as anything else other than a male. If you wear a dress and you want to be identified as a woman and you still have your tallywhacker, that's an issue. Let me see. Yeah, oh Lord, you said there's lots of ways. No, they're not. No, it's not, Dusty. It is not. I mean, if you're talking, okay, so if we're talking about like a hermaphrodite, but if you're not born with both genitalia and you've been a male or a female, and all of a sudden you say, I feel like the opposite sex, that is a issue. Because again, if I sit up here and I say I feel like a rich man, and I demand that they acknowledge me as a rich man and let me drive a car off the lot, $1 million car, or an expensive car. Do you think they will humor my request, or will I be one of those happy jackets? I'm not gonna say feel like a white person because I never want to feel like those things. I love being a black man, so I don't want to feel like nothing else. I would never want to be transracial. No, what it is though, Noah, I'm gonna always be fair. So they have a right to be, their point of view has a right to be heard. Doesn't mean I have to accept it. And I think that Noah, that's where the problem comes in. Is that when you don't accept it, they label you. And what I push back on is they say you're homophobic, which is nonsense. It's a made up term by a small hat George Weinberg. Anytime what pisses me off is anytime you say, "Yo, I don't accept that. I don't think that should be pushed on kids." That label is thrust upon you, and then they say and then they widen and say you're transphobic. And the things that bother me when they use that transphobic, I've seen them try to do it. They said straight men that don't want to date trans women, no such thing. You're still a dude. Are transphobic. No, I just don't like tallywhackers, right? So it's the same thing. Like Dusty said, did I compare it to Nazism? Not the violence and the destruction, but the extreme ideology. Absolutely. But see, I don't have to say I wish harm upon. I don't wish harm upon them because they're mentally ill, so they don't. They think what they think is normal, right? Let me see what you're saying. Like how some cardinal females look like the male equivalent. Okay, you said like how like how some cardinal females look like the male equivalent. It doesn't it doesn't hurt on a biological level on their species. But are they coming up? Okay, are those cardinals coming up with laws and forcing their way? Is the female cardinal using a strap and thinking that she is a male? That's why I said in the extremes of the ideology, Dustin. See, you try to equate animals to humans, and but that's nature. It's happiness. No, Dusty, happiness. You remember how we said? You remember how we spoke, Dusty, and you said freedom is like a construct and it's subjective. So it's happy, right? See, what also, Dusty, when we look at, see, this is where we talk about the agenda. And then this is we talk about, this force and the extreme of the ideology, right, Dusty? Because I remember, I suggest you watch a lot of those people that went to that transition, a lot of those transgender that transitioned, and then they went for a detransition. And look at how they're treated by the LGBT community. The ones that detransitioned and said that I don't think these children should be given puberty blockers. See, the Cardinals aren't giving the other Cardinals puberty blockers. They're not giving the baby birds puberty blockers, Dusty. And to watch how this community, whatever that is, demonized the other LGBT who detransitioned and said, yo, I was in a mentally ill space. Don't allow this to be done to your children. They attacked them and called them transphobic. So this is why I say yes, it's extreme. Right? Does that make sense, Dusty? Or no? It's like I said, I think mental mental illness is in many forms. I always say racism is a form of mental illness. Should we ban nose jobs because people had to get it redone? See, but there again, though, Dusty. See, this is where the dissonance is coming into play. If they are fighting for to get should a small child that don't need it, should it be nose job rights? Should it be nose job curriculums? Should it be cartoons that are created to force a identity on children, like Proud Family, the louder and the prouder? You're pushing an idea on them before, and it's like I like to say. I said, okay, if a child is allowed to choose their gender, then they ought to be able to smoke cigarettes. Um, they ought to be able to drink alcohol. It should be no limits. They should be able to drink alcohol because it's their right. See, that's where we go back to rights and freedom. It's subjective. What do you want the right to do? Nazis want the right to do an ethnic cleanse. Is that correct? So no, I'm going to hold the line. No, just like I don't, like I said, just like I don't want a Nazi around my child, I don't want a transgender forcing that is forcing their ideology on a child. Nothing should be forced on a child, right? Okay, you says racism is a form of mental illness. Yet worrying about someone not your mate's gender expression should be none of your business. But what happens when they push it out and require that it is? What happens when they don't just stay in the house? What somebody is doing behind their closed doors right now, Dusty, is not my business. But when you come out in an extreme way and you want the access to my young, impressionable child's mind, no, you can't minimize it to that, Dusty. Men should wear dresses. Why? Why should a man? Why should a man wear a dress, Dusty? Tell me why you said men should wear dresses. Why? Y'all ask about my flag over and over and over and over. Is that a racist flag? Oh man, y'all ask about this flag 9,000 times, and I have answered 700 times about my flag. So much that I don't even speak. Why should men wear dresses, Dusty? I told you, and also what we don't allow the term racism to be loosely thrown at black people. I've told you, white people can't experience racism, so they feel that anytime you at least speak against it, oh, you're being racist. You said Caitlin Clark can't go left, oh, you're being racist. You said Chelsea, what's her name? Sophie Cunningham is not that talented, you're being racist. That is not racism. That is not racism. And because you racists can't experience it, you just run around and throw it around loosely, like the term narcissism. I remember I was saying, like in 2024 and 2025, that the term narcissist was driving me crazy because everything was narcissistic, narcissistic. Dusty, you still ain't told me why you think men, you said men should wear dresses. You still haven't told me why. Okay, you're typing. I'm not even going to dignify that last comment with an answer. Oh, yes, I will. Yes, I will. And I'm going to highlight this one. This one said, blacks can't experience racism. You need to be human to experience racism. There it is. Thus, what I'm saying, this creature just came in and validated my point because they don't see you as human. Now says the dog humper or the zoophile that says that determines what this is what I mean about the levels of extreme. And they mean that. You think that creature behind this post just playing when they say that? See, America or westernized thought or Americanized thought in this case is is two ends of the extreme. Right? So if we're gonna let's play the Democrat game. Let's play the Democrat and those old funky Republicans. So this group of Republicans, now I always think that these Republicans thought this way, but especially this batch of inbreds right here, they think just like that person just said right there. So that's that form of extremism, right? Because they don't think anybody is human, but them or who they deem as human, right? But then on the other side, on the blue side, they think like Dusty. They are extremists with gender ideology. And somewhere in the middle, you have normal thought, whatever that is. Right? Whatever. I'm not even going to read your comment no more until you say something else that's wildly extreme. Okay. Who you asking that question to, Dusty? You said, do you see queer people as human? Because I hear other Pan African advocates trace black trans far to fear to colonialism. Do I see them as human? It's not my job to say yes, they are human. They are confused humans. That's why I said I'm not gonna call for extremism, but I will stand for to defend my life. So who am I to say who deserves to live and who don't? That sounds like eugenics, right? That sounds like Margaret Sanger. That sounds like a lot of those top eugenicists that want to determine who's fit, right? See, just because you see that with me, I don't have to come from an extremist ideology. Holding the line doesn't mean extreme unless it's against the people that don't like what you're holding the line against. I think chopping your tallywhacker off is extreme, right? Self mutilization. Is that I don't mind being seen as confused by others. Maybe God was a little confused making my body. Yet, hold on, let me see. Yet I'm very happy and have surrounded myself with other trans and straight folks, right? Okay, so um I don't really get into because that's to say God is kind of like an imbecile, right? That's how that comes across to say that God was confused. That means God was. And see, that's where we get into the Christian ideology of God doesn't make mistakes, blah, 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 blah. But I think that it kind of does say that God is an imbecile when he or she or it, because we don't even know if God's a man or a woman. That is a construct that was pushed upon you that God is a man, right? So I think a lot of ideas have to be challenged, but I think a lot of ideas are concrete, right? Alex Jones exposed it all. Alex Jones pushed up. Alex Jones is a pussy. I think Alex Jones is a pussy because Alex Jones, let me say something to that person. I used to think that Alex Jones really had it right until they bent him over about that Sandy Hook thing. um, and it's like, okay, it's like somebody said, with the photo over the weekend. Somebody even commented under my post. The photo of those Nazi patriots that were marching and reclaiming America, however you do that. And there's this still shot of this black woman on the bus or train surrounded by these Nazis, right? And it's still talking about Alex Jones. And somebody said, and here comes this thing. They said, well, I think this photo is staged. Come on now. Somebody even said on one of my other platforms, they said, come on the 4th of July guy. And then they did the shrugging shoulders emoji. And they said, on the 4th of July guy, come on. That's how you know white people think something is preposterous when they say, come on. Right? And I said, well, okay, I will see. Here's my thing. I'm not an absolute about everything. So let's just say that photo was staged. And then I also said, well, I think the attempts on Dookie's life were staged, right? Y'all remember one of many, especially the one where he puts his fist up in the air in triumph. See, that's how he began to play on your mind and brainwash y'all to make y'all think that somebody was after him. It's slow. Brainwashing is a slow technique, right? And so I said, well, I think that's staged. Just like the whole thing with Sandy Hook. And that's what Alex Jones was. I think a lot of these events in America or a lot of events around the world are staged because they want to push a certain message, right? Let me see the comments. Do I? Somebody said you claim Mexican culture. Who claims Mexican culture? Uh, I think okay. Dusty says I think it's extreme to put an intersex infant under the knife. It's still pushed. we should wait to adulthood for all the surgeries. Now, that's the thing that I can say you're at least honest on that, Dusty. That's why I don't see. This is what I say. This live right here, this is for conversation. This is not an echo chamber, right? I'm not Dookie Dunny, and I am not trying to brainwash the masses to think a certain way. So this is not an echo chamber, but this is a space, and this is what I do appreciate about Dusty. Dusty is able to hear differences of opinions, right? And you see how we were able just to, I don't agree with a lot of that, but you see how Dusty was still able to remain respectful. Those are the people that I'm able to have conversations with. No matter what you feel you are, you can feel you are a flamingo. And guess what I'm gonna ask you? Why do you think when did you become a flamingo? At what point did you feel this flamingo-ness? But see, with the supremacy or the white supremacy construct of America, there's a zero-sum game. That's the first gang, Gang. That's the first gang, the get down, lay down. That's the first Debo mindset. You're going to take this indoctrination, or I'm gonna knock your ass out. I'm going to inflict pain and punishment on you because you have a difference of opinion. Somebody say Argentina, let's go. Who are y'all with? Who are y'all with on the World Cup? Let me ask that question. Who said anything about me? Who is first of all, are y'all having two different conversations? Somebody said if you can claim Mexican culture, who keep talking about Mexican culture? It was frequent practice to this day, intersex infants. I asked you, what's your definition? You keep saying intersex. What is your definition of intersex? And Dusty, do you feel like young children should? I think I feel like you answered that question, but I want to be sure. Do you feel like young children should have gender reassignment? Do you think that, or do you think they're too young to decide their gender? They keep asking the same stupid question. Is that a racist flag? I've told you several times that black people cannot be racist. Now, your brain will not accept that because the dissonance will go to play. Because what you're going to do is fill my comments up with several reasons how we can. Because we said you smell like baloney, or because we said you smell like wet dog, or whatever, because we resist your thing and say something else. No, systematically, we have no power. Hell, we don't even have owners in the NFL. So let's just knock it off. Ah, that's what he did. Somebody said at Abel, he mistook the Pan African flag as a Mexican flag. That's why I said I knew who's saying something about this. Okay. So do you think that again? So what about the second question, Dusty? Do you feel that young children should be exposed to gender reassignment? Because I've seen this is what I've seen that pissed me off, Dusty. I've seen a insane parent, and yes, I am gonna label that it was a baby, an infant, and she's saying that it's a boy. It was a baby boy, and she was saying that this baby identifies as a girl, a newborn, an infant. Looked like he's probably 2 to 3 months old. And that is what I'm talking about. That baby doesn't identify as anything. Let me see. LB in the house. LB is another one that can be cordial in the room and have cordial conversations. Like a lot what LB had to say. I think around 10 was when when I fully understood I wasn't one gender. Oh, here we go. Let's go. However, let's continue. And the only intersex character I had was Dax from, is that DS9? Hormone blockers don't prevent growth and are important to regulate hormones. Dusty, oh no, I'm gonna have to leave you on the cliff on that one, my guy. My guy. So okay. Because there's so many questions out. Okay, Dusty. When you go to a job interview, or do you check the you rather not ask box? Because I know that's also. Or when you go to the doctor, what gender do you check? What gender box do you check, Dusty? And do you consider the name Dusty a male or a female name? Let me see what my guy LB say. Personally, I feel they should wait until they're 18 to make that decision. Their brains are still growing, but I have no problem with people wanting to transition. Okay. I think if they just must do it like you, LB, at least wait until and as I was talking, I don't know if you were here, LB, when I was saying that how the LGBT or the trans community, I've seen several videos where they turn on the ones who detransition. And for the ones that detransition, they come out and they fully attack them. And they say that they're transphobic. But I remember listening to one, and I'm always going to call them by their correct gender, because it saves on me being confused with them. Right? If I know that you are a male, I'm not gonna say. I'll just probably say, "Hey, you" or something. But I'm not gonna. It's not to disrespect them, but it's like somebody got a rabbit in front of me and they're telling me, "How you like my horse?" Right? And I clearly see that this is a rabbit, and they're trying to force my mind to call this a horse. Not gonna happen, right? Not out of disrespect, but out of my own. I know what I see in front of my eyes. But anyway, LB, they had this deconstructing. They got a line of them on here on YouTube, and I went down. Speaking of rabbit, I went down a rabbit hole one night of the deconstructing videos. And when I say they were saying to your point, LB, they were saying, "Yo, do not allow your children to make these decisions." I wish someone would have had not allowed me to make this decision. I wish somebody would have talked to me. So you have to hear both sides. And what I don't like about that phobia thing, because I don't have an irrational fear. I don't fear gay people. They're people, right? So, but when you say I'm homophobic or I'm transphobic, what is my phobia, right? So to watch them attack these people because they're simply saying, "Yo, I was misguided. I was lost. I was confused." I think that they have the right I think that children, if you're going to have children in the middle of this, they have the right to hear both sides because this is something that's going to affect their lives. This is why, Dwayne Wade was never one of my favorite basketball players, but it had nothing to do with what he did with his son. But it was how I forget what podcast he was on. It was either the Pivot or something, and they kind of held him as a great father, and I don't. I'm gonna just say I think he's a trash father, and I think he's a trash father for several reasons when it comes to his son, because number one, you allow your wife who you're married to be the person that makes these decisions. You didn't, as a co-parent and a co-father or a co-parent, you don't do that without having a conversation with the biological mother. You can be married all you want, Certain things in raising your children. I'm a father. I've been a father for a long time, and my son, mom, and I are the best of friends. And we even when our child was younger, we never made decisions. Expect now buying some shoes or something like that. That's cool. Buying jacket or whatever, that's fine. But things that are life altering, no, you don't do that. So I don't respect Dwayne Wade. Let me see. Let me see the rest of the comments. Um, we can produce hormones too young. I do say 10 to 15. I still think 10 or 15 is too young, Dusty, because like LB said, their mind is still. So do you think that okay, so at what age should it okay to answer that to ask that question, at what age should they begin to be able to drink and smoke and become sexually active? You can okay, back to the name. You said you consider your name intersex. Okay, I probably can hear. Hell, I've seen women call themselves Rusty, so I wouldn't be consider. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a woman that calls herself Dusty. Absolutely. Okay, great point. And that was another one, LB, where he says I've seen videos where people who transition have nothing but health problems. It's a scary decision. You know what, LB? Same thing. When I saw these detransitioning videos, I could see nothing but. I remember watching one, LB, and it's kind of laughable because this was a natural female, right? And she decided to transition into a male, and somehow they gave her a penis, and in giving her this, she said that it's painful. It keeps her up all night. And me, I was making a joke. I said, well, hey, mine have kept me up all night, but it wasn't pain I was experiencing. And I was like, you're experiencing that because your body is not designed for that add on. And also for the males that have created themselves a vaginal or a vagina, they would talk about the pain that they go through because that's not what it's supposed to be. So, absolute. Did you know in medieval Europe we thought rabbits were intersect like slugs. Here you go with those animal comparisons again, Dusty, because they reproduced so fast in their dens. Sometimes we were wrong about our perception of bunnies. But anytime, okay, Dusty, because I think you kind of alluded to and asked something. Anytime, like for me, when you give me anything that came out of Europe, I look at anything of that with a raised eyebrow because European thought is always a degenerate thought, right? So I think that they have a very warped end because the collective of Europeans or white people are very like basic. And that might be hard for some of them to think they're a very literal people, right? And some things they just don't understand. Let me see. I think most people in our country can agree it's around 18. But why is it 18? Why is 18 and then number two, why is 18 the number? And then who decided 18? And this is how they're able to, because like what I pushed back on Corey Holcomb, that disgusting piece of was when he was talking about like I think he was saying like in Iceland that the legal age or the yeah, for young girls was like around 13 or 14. And I look at people like that with two raised eyebrows when they start to talk about, well, in other countries, you can have your way with little girls. Because who are they to decide the age of? To me, whenever I hear a teen, 18, 19, I still hear a teenage mentality, a young, undecided mentality, a still developing mentality, right? So I think that because 18 has been solidified in this country, we look at it like, okay, we'll take it. But I think that they have to be. I think they have to be clear on why their decision, their why. Because I'm always gonna ask them their why. Well, what's your why? Imagine feeling so uncomfortable with yourself that you are willing to risk your life to be someone else. That is the thing, LB. It's a rock and a hard place. Humans are animals. We're complex. But we also have the let me adjust my camera. We also have the ability to like reason and think. So it's like certain things, like I said, they have to normalize, right? We can abuse ourselves, not in most circumstances. The why just has to be happy. We are trying to be ourselves. We don't usually risk it like that. But see, when we say happy, are you happy when you're trying to change yourself in such a drastic way? Or are you searching for happiness by changing yourself in such a drastic way? Does that make sense? Because me being happy with myself, there isn't things like I'll say, say you want to do like braces or something and say, well, hey, I think I might want to. One thing that bothers me is this phenomenon of people getting veneers and watching young people get veneers. Like watching people that are like in their early 20s or teens. sh- It's like, what's wrong with your natural teeth? Mm. You says, yes, I'm happier, not conforming. Happy you are happy with your gender. How do you feel about people detransitioning? I feel like you're reasonable. I feel like you're not gonna war on somebody that decides to detransition. Would you consider them if they detransition, Dusty, and then I'm gonna lay my plane and um go take care of what I gotta take care of. That's one thing about I like about my lives. I'll start talking about one thing because it's not just we have so many things that we can discover. I mean talk about. But I'm gonna land and I'll probably be back later. But I definitely want to know that answer before I get out of here. Um, how do you feel about people that detransition and then speak against it, and then speak against these surgeries? Veneers. I had to get 4 crowns due to my medical issues. This should be available to people who need it, kind of like BBLs. Um, I just look at so many things of people that try to convince themselves that they're happy. Because also that's a whole thing that we could talk about, this whole BBL culture, right? And watching so many and being a person that grew up in the 80s and 90s, and a lot of the women, oh, a lot of the women. I tell you one woman I love growing up, that Brandy Norwood. Oh, Brandy is so fine. But anyway, I'm saying that to say that the 90s women had a different level of beauty. Oh my God. And whether it was Left Eye, whether it was Chili, despite her MAGA mind, um, whether it was Reagan Preston who played Zarya in Parenthood, so many Tatiana Ali, they had a beautiful natural shape and a natural look to them. And I feel like I've always felt like Nicki Minaj was like the blueprint for the plastic butt, because I think Nicki does have a plastic butt. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like because I remember at one point Jennifer Lopez was the symbol for big butts, and now when you look at Jennifer Lopez, it's like she got a regular thing, but it was like natural because Serena Williams, who has always been fine, she had more of a natural thing. So I think like when we look at this like BBL culture, it's another thing of pushing, modify your body for happiness and to be accepted. Because I'll tell a lot of the ladies now, yo, you don't have to have that. When I tell a woman she's 90s fine, I'm giving her the ultimate compliment. And some of them say, what you mean by that? Because those 90s women, the Holly Berries, the Jada Pinkett, despite what y'all think about Jada Pinkett, because Jada Pinkett in a different world was Chef's Kiss, right? But there wasn't this one size fit all image. Like you didn't have to. You don't have to have that. My thing is like to the thing of what we're saying in this section is like be happy with you. If you got a flat bottom, long as that guy thinks it's attractive. Read y'all comments. I gotta catch up. Somebody said, hi. Vanity is one thing, but self-hatred takes it to another level. Agreed. Because I think, and to this person's point, I think vanity slides you over into it. Vanity could be like you just. I agree with that statement, by the way. Vanity, and that's why one of my movies is The Devil's Advocate, and what Al Pacino always talks about vanity in that movie. But like you said, it takes it to a whole nother level. You know, because I think also where I think vanity could go into the line of that is like where a person is looking for the perfect face, right? And they want to just keep messing with themselves with plastic surgery. Dusty brought up plastic noses. And they're so obsessed, because I think that there's a scale of this, right? Tell me what y'all think about this. And the whole thing is like, you're so obsessed with having a perfect look that you don't understand it. Yo, and so I think also self-hatred is into that. Because like 90s little Kim, oh man, I sure wish she would have realized just how beautiful she was the way she was. Somebody said, okay, this same person, regular shape is fine. It should still exist. BBL crowns, gender affirming surgery for anyone above 18 and fully grown. I definitely agree. Surgery is overdone. Yeah, I think in a regular overdoing it. Oh man, I remember that botched. I like watching series like that. Somebody say, he said, wake up to a whole nother self if you can afford the fakeness. I wish I could pin that comment. I wish I could pin that comment. Wake up to a whole nother self if you can afford the fakeness. And just think about it. Like, sure, somebody, like you said, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying that she got braces, and she has beautiful teeth. She was saying that her previous reason as to why she got it. Now to me, she's perfect just the way she is. But I also realize sometimes ladies don't like when you tell them things that they don't need to do to themselves. Not with this friend, but a lot of ladies, they don't like when you tell them they're perfect the way they are. I can remember being attacked for saying, "Yo, just wear your natural hair. You don't need that. Just wear your natural hair." They didn't go for that. So I think that in a percentage, you find these women where they're like, yo, they can actually be happy with their natural hair, their natural shape, whether if they're busty or they're not, they're okay with that. And those are the women that I like because I feel like, especially with the creation of social media really forces you to feel you have to look a certain way. I was reading comments. Somebody said, "Pin it. We can monetize." Correct. I think I do too, LB. But I like talking to y'all. I like these conversations. And I noticed. Guess what I noticed? See, I noticed when you don't feed the racist trolls, they go away. Right? I noticed that. See, and a lot of times before I land the plane, also, yes, I would like people to listen. I would like people to like and share and subscribe. But I'm also a person that's not obsessed with numbers, right? And I like when they come in and they say, "Oh, you actually only have 7 people listening." Those are 7 people. I remember when social media started, like we wasn't so obsessed with numbers. When Facebook started, when Tom over there in MySpace, we wasn't so obsessed with these things. But as things grew, we became digit 304s, and everything had to be about numbers. You see the foolishness? You see the foolishness, Dusty? Listen, here they go. How many kids do you abandon? So did you abandon so far, homie? This is what I mean, the mental illness. I've told you, I said how a person enters a room or a space dictates their home training. I was raised with manners, right? So I was raised, ma'am, no ma'am, please, thank you, sir, no sir. Yes, sir, no sir. I was raised with manners. I was raised to speak coming into a room. And whenever somebody comes in a room being a degenerate like that, they speak there. They tell you exactly who they are mentally. uh, it's insane. See, that's what I mean, Dusty, when I say 2 levels of the extreme. Now, if you're just a prejudiced white person to say, yo, I don't too much care for black people, and I feel like I had one that comes in all the time, Regina, right? And Regina is a full-on MAGA, but she's not extremist when it comes to race. Now, she might be extremist when it comes to that goddamn MAGA, because she still got a week left for this gas price to go to $1, which she predicted. But it's a level of extremism in your head. Look, and they say that manners, grandkids visiting. You see what I'm saying? Putting feet up on the couch. These were things. But see, the thing that it's like somebody said a couple of days, and I always tell them before I go. And I know I've been saying before I go the last 5 minutes. But somebody came into my live and said, um, I'm not racist because I know you're violent. And again, there go another word that's subjective, right? And I had to say, yo, I don't have a record. I've never been arrested. I've never seen the back of a police car. But you're racist because you think because I'm a black man, I don't raise my children. I just was talking about how beautiful fatherhood is early in the life, but stupid, mentally ill racists, that's what they think. They see black men and they buy the stereotype that they created, right? So when they see black men, they instantly think that. But like I always say, listen to Tim Tebow, what he says about white fathers. They might be surprised, might not, because maybe they're doing it in their homes, right? I had 3 white guys step up to exactly that. But see, they have such an outdated mindset. All those bozos that was out there talking about reclaiming America. Number one, they're not proud because they hide. See, they're not proud. They hide themselves. Anything you're doing in the dark, you're not proud of. But they tell themselves we're proud. And then somebody else said, I said, well, why do they hide their faces if they're so proud? Somebody said facial recognition. I said, oh, so in facial recognition, that means that you're doing something that you don't want to be recognized. You're doing something that you know is not cool. They said, well, some people have to keep their jobs. Oh, see, now you're saying that you don't want because what you're doing. If you're doing something kind, I cannot lose my job or I cannot be villainized if I'm out here building things for children. If I'm feeding my community, I don't have to hide. I don't feel like I'll shame of that. But they know deep down they know. That's why they want to hide. I digress. But yeah, but I will be back. Dusty, is always great talking to you because, like I said, it's not an echo chamber. It's not about agreeing. LB, it's always a pleasure talking to you. A lot of my people that come in and just can listen. Listening take you a long way. So until later, catch you later.